Hello there. Welcome. This is my very first health and wellness video on my YouTube channel. I know that many of you know me, Dexter Goldborn, as a cellist, but if you guys watched the video that I released last Monday, I believe, I explained that I believe that in order for us to be able to have our dreams and be free enough to do the things that we love, for me it's playing the cello, we're going to need to work from our health as the center. So I'm going to give a quick introduction because I really am actually an aspiring doctor, an aspiring naturopathic doctor, and this is a doctor that deals mostly in using herbs, using energy medicine, using acupuncture, using cold thermogenesis, things of that nature that stimulate the body's own natural healing potential to fix everything it's in order. If you give the body its natural ingredients, it has an innate intelligence far beyond anything that man can do to heal itself. But I also intend to become a medical doctor because I want to see the whole world come into balance between these two modalities. It doesn't have to be one or the other, but right now it is very largely in the allopathic medical doctor realm. Most people think that there has to be a pill for every ill, a surgery for every ill, etc., etc. And you are seeing now that consciousness is finally evolving throughout the world, and people are wising up as to how to take care of their bodies and how to take care of themselves and their minds and help to them to become more in line with the universe. That said, I know that I am going to need a buttload of education and in order to maximize my healthcare and my wellness. So what better way to learn something than to teach it? What my dream is to see the whole world use that balance between naturopathy and allopathy to achieve all of your dreams. You guys can see above me my dream board. I don't want to risk moving the camera right now just because I don't exactly have a good stand for it. But above the whiteboard I have right here, I have a dream board. I hope that anything that I teach you guys can help you to achieve your dreams. So really what I wanted to start with is the four elements. Those will be the first four elements, the first four videos in my health and wellness channel. And what better one to start with than water? Water, and oh my gosh, I wrote fluoridation, which is a huge topic that I want to talk about, but I meant hydration. So why on earth would I talk about water first? It's because water is life, you guys. Water is conscious life. We really need to consider the fact that 70% of the earth is water and 70% of us is water, thus, strengthening the idea that we are indeed one with the earth and not, some separate thing from it. We did come from it. You have to consider that the scientists still don't really understand so many of the elements of water that make it so unique. It's because it is a magical and mystical for a liquid in this world, and honestly, of course, it's not just a liquid. In fact, we understand that it is a universal solvent. It can pretty much solubilize anything because any life can exist in it. It becomes more dense when it's a liquid, and less dense when it's a solid. You'll realize that ice floats on top of water. This is unlike any other form of matter. No other form of matter does this. When it gets into a solid form, you imagine it gets more dense and then sinks, but somehow water floats. And this is important for sustaining life, considering that, most life is aquatic, and we arose from water. That's how we evolved. And if it was super duper cold and all the water, the ice sank, it would be very hard to sustain life, right? But the universe is very intelligent in how it provides life to everyone. And one of the most incredible forms of how water gives life, this thing called capillary action. This is something I love to talk about because you really need to consider that water doesn't have any arms or legs or anything, and yet somehow it can climb up the shoots of little plants, flowers, all the way up to trees from the very roots, just climb up without the tree having a heart or something like that to pump the water. The water just knows to rise up and give order and life and energy towards everything in the entire tree, to the smallest branch to the smallest little leaflet at the end of one of the branches. That is a beautiful thing to consider, and doesn't even scratch the surface of what water is. In fact, there are many Russian and even a Japanese scientist that I've been studying and following forever. His name is Masaru Emoto. Who just marvel at the beauty of water, because they realize that it is conscious. It has memory. It adapts to everything in its environment. For example, they were doing this. Masaru Emoto was doing a huge experiment where he would project his energy, or rather his thoughts, and we can all replicate this. It is always available to us. He would project his thoughts onto the water, and if he would project thoughts of love and happiness and kindness and appreciation and gratitude, the water would form these beautiful crystals when looked at under the microscope. It would be very reminiscent of sacred geometry. I'll talk about this in a different lecture. But if he projected ideas of hate and anger, and you're calling the water stupid and foolish, you're like, "Omae wa baka da ro," like saying you're an idiot, then the water would form very disharmonious looking, very ugly shapes, nothing like a crystal at all. And this is so, can you imagine, considering that we're 70% water, what this says about us and how we have to treat ourselves in our minds. This also has been shown. Many Russian scientists have been doing this with the study of cymatics. That's cymatics, cymatics, where they play certain kinds of music, traditional Chinese music, classical music. It all makes the water form a bunch of crystals. Rap music and heavy metal kind of makes it do those like disharmonious kind of formations. Don't get me wrong, I love heavy metal, and there are some kinds of rap that I mess with. I do like Bass God, which is we'll talk about that another time. But the point is, you have to understand what these effects are having on you and your body and the water around you. So what does this mean for humans? That brings me right into my next topic. Yes, we're 70% water, but our heart and brain are especially susceptible, considering that water, especially the water that we came from in the oceans, are largely ionic. They have lots and lots of salt in them, and salt is not a bad thing. And we'll talk about that at another time. But our heart and our brain use water and salts, sodium, calcium, magnesium, especially magnesium, to conduct nerve potentials and conduct a lot of its electrical impulses. So being bereft of water, being dehydrated, you'll start noticing definitely the emergence of headaches. You'll start realizing that you think slower. You'll start noticing the incidence of stroke going up, because stroke is really a clot being stuck in the tiny blood vessels of your brain. And if there was more water flowing through these blood vessels, you would be able to flush out these strokes. So definitely you got to, in order to keep your the solids in your blood far more, floaty and not as hard and calcified, you've got to make sure you're drinking adequate amounts of water. This is an easy way. Whenever I tell somebody talks to me about a headache, I just say, how much water are you drinking? You should be drinking, I believe the standard is now, everyone thinks it's 8 cups of water. Not exactly standard. You should be thinking about what your body weight is. I'm about 175, 180 pounds. Half of that in ounces, so about 90 ounces of water every single day. That's how you would find out how much you need. So moving on, your lungs are 83% water, and in order for you to maintain your temperature in your body, circulation throughout your body, you've got to have water going through it very freely, very fluidly, because having this water pass through and be moving through smoothly actually does regulate your blood temperature. It does regulate your entire body temperature. It's why I take cold showers all the time. Now, there's also the detoxification purposes of water. Lymph. We have to really understand. People don't really appreciate lymph as much as it needs to be. This is what recaptures the water that comes out of your cells, that comes out of your blood vessels, anytime your heart pumps. And this water will enter these certain lymph vessels, and they will carry it out, and they will refunnel it back into your bloodstream so that it can be peed out. But first, what it does is it passes it through a bunch of lymph nodes, which hold a lot of your immune cells that will handle all of the toxins and all of the bacteria, etc., in your blood. And you need to consider this. You guys have been to the doctor before. You may see that when you have a cold, he'll start testing around your subclavian vein, your clavicle around there. It's a big concentration of lymph nodes. You can tell if you're inflamed by the size of your lymph nodes, because that means that your immune cells are working hard. You've got to make sure you have enough water to make sure all that lymph that is detoxifying your blood and your body and your muscles and all of your cells is moving, because they don't have a pump in order to make them move. You've either got to make them move, or you've got to provide, honestly, both, or you've got to provide a bunch of fluid in order to make them move. It's both of them. So definitely make sure you are drinking enough water to create that sort of detoxification. But what other detoxification? The kidneys. Well, your kidneys are actually one of the greatest ways that you detoxify and you move toxins out. And they are one of the ways that you stay hydrated. You know that your body, your brain, particularly the posterior. Is it the posterior? Yeah, it's the posterior pituitary that releases a hormone known as vasopressin. And what this basically means is that it's going to tell your kidneys, hold on to more water so that we can actually hydrate ourselves, because we're obviously dehydrated right now. This is how your body will know to retain more water, and you will see in your very urine itself that it becomes a darker color. One of the fastest ways to recognize if you're dehydrated. You should be having a straw-like color urine to know if you're hydrated, and not like a dark yellow like the sun type urine. So that would mean you are dehydrated. What about your poop? You defecate out a lot of water, which is a good thing. This is part of the reason you have to keep rehydrating. But the thing is, a lot of people who are constipated, one of the first things I ask them, are you drinking enough water? Because your water, you are one big tube from your mouth to your butt. You're just a big old tube. That's your GI tract, your gastrointestinal tract. So if all the water passes through there, and it will move your constipated poopy or around, and this way it doesn't get reabsorbed into your body. Look up the word auto-intoxication. This is when your poop actually, it sits there too long and it slows down all your entire metabolism, but besides that, all those poop particles get reabsorbed into your blood, causing massive inflammation. So yeah, you may have a lot of poop particles circulating in your blood if you are dehydrated and constipated as a result of your dehydration. So don't worry, just drink some more water. So there's also the fact that your joints are lubricated through water. They have these things called glucosaminoglycans, particularly the one named as hyaluronic acid. This is important. The hyaluronic acid is the one that holds on to the most water. It is the one that is right between all of our knee joints, all of our spinal joints, all of our arm joints, and this is what gives them their fluidity. It is, if you lack hyaluronic acid, there's a very good chance that you are not going to have a lot of fluidity or mobility around your joints. And this is especially important for me, who, like I'll show you on my dream board later, wants to become one of the greatest kickers in the world. Like, my legs have got to be able to do 180-degree splits like it's nothing. So this is why I've been being very attentive to this. Your spine, especially those with back problems, your spine is so important. I'm trying to bend the board so the camera can see it. There we go. Sorry, I don't exactly have the funds right now for anything of higher quality. I'm gonna move the camera. There we go. Okay, your spine especially. Why is it that it's so important for water for the spine? Well, your your spine doesn't exactly have vascularization going towards it in order to bring water towards it. The only way that it gets water is if, well, it kind of trickles down into it. It's called local diffusion. The water will just trickle from the local, or the what am I thinking, the cells and the bones that are near it, so that it will eventually get into them. And if you don't have enough water, so there, basically your spine is the last area to get water. So if you are having a lot of back pain because your bones are colliding with each other a lot, and those fluid sacs that are in between each of the bony joints, that those sacs are, if they're not getting enough water, you'll know immediately through your back pain. It just means you need to drink lots more water, because that is one of the most desperate parts that need it. They want it the most because they don't have blood vessels to bring it to them. Now, your skin also has that hyaluronic acid I spoke of. So if you want nice, plump, and beautiful, sexy skin, you will definitely make sure to be drinking a lot of water. If you have dry hands, it's a very good chance that you are not drinking enough water. It's that simple. You don't need to always be putting on lotions and potions and whatever. Just drink a lot of water. So I've talked to you about drinking a lot of water, but the thing is, we don't treat our water very well, like to the point where we would want to even drink it. It's not as easy as just saying put more water inside of your mouth and you'll be okay. There's a lot that we are doing to our water that is poisoning it. And I want you to keep in mind that it is conscious and remembers all of the terror that we subjected to as a human race. So I want you to consider the fact that most of our water that we use for drinking water, it comes from aquifers, and these are these caverns beneath the earth that store the purest water, that provide our spring and well water. So we really have been depleting them at 15 times the rate that we have been repleting them. So we don't really get as much of them as we would like to. We know that it's going down. So instead of repleting them and using what little water that we're getting now that we have a downward going amount of water, what do? Well, we make it very toxic, because we allow the agricultural practices that are also extremely toxic to us to infect our water with a great deal of pesticides and antibiotics. This comes from manure, by the way. We feed a lot of antibiotics to our cows and our pigs and everything to make them fat. That goes into us, mind you, when we eat meat. And when they poop these out, the manure that we scatter all over the agricultural plains, when we're pouring water all over into them, that water doesn't just go away. It drifts into our municipal supply, and this will actually this is what creates all of those pharmaceuticals inside of our water. So we've got to be a lot more careful and get filters. Nitrates are also inside of them, and nitrates are these compounds. They're also found in meats because of our agricultural practices, and what they do in essence is they cause a lot of chemical reactions inside of our body that harms the DNA in our body and results in a lot of colon cancers. So our water really isn't as great as we'd like for it to be. We do make efforts in order to purify it, in order to make sure that we don't have a lot of bacteria and viruses in it, because we understand this. But we do it through a way that's not exactly the best. We do it through a lot of chlorination with our water, and chlorine will destroy all of the bacteria in our water, much in the same way an antibiotic does when you have a big infection. But here's the problem with both antibiotics and chlorine: they are non-selective bactericidal compounds. In other words, they will kill all of the bacteria, not just the bad bacteria, but the good ones as well. And mind you, we are more bacterial in terms of cell number than we are like human cells. There are more bacterial cells in our gut than there are even throughout our entire body. there are good ones that are working in favor of us to make sure our entire GI tract lining is in line. It modulates our brain, our mood. It modulates our heart, our thyroid, which maintains our metabolism. It synthesizes certain vitamins and hormones. It will manage our DNA. So many other things I could talk about. But yeah, we need to be very careful considering that we have so much chlorine in our waters, a lot of it. Worse than that though, and I want to talk at length about this, but I got to keep this brief. Fluoride, so much of it in our water. We are one of the few nations that fluoridate our water as heavily as we do, all in the under the guise of we're trying to prevent cavities. I want you to take a look at the back of your toothpaste right now. You probably have some. There's no way that you don't have a toothpaste that has fluoride in it. Most toothpastes do. And I want you to consider the fact that toothpaste will also have a little warning in very fine print saying that you're not, if you ingest this more than a pea size of it, then you should call poison control immediately. Take a second to think about that. What does that mean? It's because fluoride is actually toxic. Fluoride is actually derived from a lot of the phosphate mining plants, and it's their runoff. It's their it's considered a toxic compound by them, and they pour it into our water in order to get us to basically get rid of it. And we put it in the water, but the thing is, once we do, here's the results. There's actually a really good study, several really good studies, a lot of them, dozens of them actually, but a Chinese one in particular, by the, hold on, I have the name right here. Yeah, environmental health. It's a 2012 Chinese study, environmental health protection, I believe. Yeah, they say they are showing that with every little bit of fluoride that's found in the urine of each and every Chinese individual, each of the children, their IQ points go down half a point. So that's a problem. Why does this happen? Because fluoride acts as an incredibly strong calcifier. That means that it draws calcium in strong deposits. It calcifies whatever it is that it's around. And the one place that is a magnet for calcification is someplace known as the pineal gland. This is the gland that is very important with spiritual practices. This is where the soul sits. This is where the soul enters the body, and really, it's meant to operate waking and sleeping cycles. It tells you when to go to bed. Creates melatonin, this antioxidant hormone that tells you when to go into sleep mode. And if this is calcified, that is messed up. You are completely now unaware of your spiritual potential, the fact that you are a creator and a godly being, all because there's fluoride in every single bit of water that you drink. More than that pea of toothpaste, mind you, in every glass. I will say that. So I want you to consider the fact that not only does it do that, but on top of that, it is an endocrine disruptor. It causes more bone disorders. It actually will cause the opposite of what it was supposedly supposed to prevent, which is like cavities. It will cause something called dental fluorosis, which means the enamel of your teeth will be worn away at. And this is actually really heartbreaking, considering that there are people, like, they used to do this to the Jews in concentration camps. They would pour lots of fluoride into their water in order to placate them, sort of pacify them, so that they would never ever rebel. They'd never realize what they could do, nothing like that. We need to be more aware of this. This is a mass drugging without our consent. This is a drug put into our water. The FDA did not approve of it, and we are drinking it every single day. We have no knowledge of it. We did not consent to it. Definitely consider what you have to do in order to make this go away. What's worse is we put this tap water in plastic bottles, and those plastic bottles, when light contacts a plastic bottle, it melts the plastic It's called. These will create something that's called bisphenol